ago, I played in a chess tournament called the Banff Open. At the time, FIDE, which is the world's governing chess association, was offering free packages to help fund tournaments in their post-pandemic recovery. And a part of this package included a $500 prize for the top female player. And since the Banff Open was one of the tournaments to receive this package, it meant that I was in contention to win this prize. Now, I had a pretty good tournament. The time I spent studying during the pandemic really paid off, and I ended up beating my first national master, which was a huge milestone for me. And so after the tournament, I checked the cross tables to see if I had won the top female prize. And I found out that I did win the prize, but by default. That's right, in a tournament with over 100 people in the top section, I was the only girl. And no, this wasn't because the Banff Open was particularly difficult to access, or because it was during a particularly busy time of the year, because the story is the same at almost every tournament. There are very few women who play chess, even though women are just as capable as men. We are taking fundamentally the wrong approach towards increasing female participation in chess. Offering incentives, like a top women prize, are not enough. These incentives are especially not enough when we live in a society which actively discourages against female participation. Incentives fail to address the root cause of the problem, which is a lack of an inclusive community for women in chess. But for a moment, let's step away from chess and let's talk about the workforce. A 2014 study from George Washington University found that on average, men interrupt women 33% more often than they interrupt other men. But this isn't just about men, because the same study found that on average, women interrupt other women 78% more often than they interrupt men. Think about that for a second. Despite policies for diversity, for affirmative action, and for equal representation, women are still being prevented from reaching their full potential by the nature of the environment in which they work in. And incentives like this, they will do very little to increase participation. And in chess, it's the same. People say that chess is an equalizer because anybody can play chess, regardless of their background, and can succeed. After all, you're playing against your opponent's moves, which aren't affected by their race, by their gender, or their age. But this is only part of the story. During in-person tournaments, I've had people who refuse to shake my hand before and after a game. I've had stalkers, and I've had people who, not knowing that I was in the room, question my abilities just because I am a woman. Online, it's worse, because it's so much easier to make a poor decision in a matter of seconds. Let me just read out some of these comments that were said to me, and keep in mind, these were all said by fully grown adults. Number 1, I would be canceled in most chess Discord servers if I were to offer my unfiltered opinion on women's chess. Number 2, and this one is my personal favorite, I can't lose to a girl. They are inferior. And finally, this last one is such a gem. Carina would be goated at pole dancing. And keep in mind, these were all made by fully grown adults. And I think that these comments speak for themselves and speak volumes about the toxicity and negativity that is sometimes prevalent towards women in the chess community. But that being said, compared to most girls, I'm actually lucky. Even right now, there's an ongoing scandal involving alleged sexual harassment and a very well-known American grandmaster and chess coach. What message does this spread to girls who are looking to play chess? What message does this spread to girls who are already playing chess? With scandals like this, offering incentives like a top female prize will do very little to actually increase female participation. Instead, they only serve to check off a box while we ignore the real problem at hand. But that being said, the chess community isn't bad at all. Many of these comments were made on an online public forum, and many people defended me right after they were said. In person, many people have brought me to the level I am today by training and playing games with me, regardless of my gender. And I can truly say that I have made friends from all walks of life by being a part of the chess community. As a society, we support women. We like the idea of diversity, of equity, and of female representation, and we consciously act in a way to foster this ideal, whether that be by offering incentives or even by supporting young girls in their chess journey. But the problem isn't with our conscious, it's with our unconscious. Unconscious biases are the judgments and associations we make within a split second of getting to know or see someone. At any given moment, our brain takes in 11 million bits of information, but our conscious mind can only process 50 bits of information, which causes our brain to create shortcuts, which are known as our unconscious biases. Now, historically, our unconscious biases have been put in place to help us survive. For example, if we're getting chased by wild animals, our unconscious biases are what will help us make that split-second decision to run, which will prevent us from turning into this. But that being said, our unconscious biases are also the root of sexism in both chess and in the workforce. In the workforce, our unconscious biases are what cause people to interrupt women in a split second. In chess, they're what cause people to send all these negative comments and to create such a negative environment for women. I'm sure that if you asked any of these people who made these comments to think consciously not only about the impact that their comments would have on women in chess, but also about how the comments that they're about to send align with their own personal values and ideals, they wouldn't have sent these comments. Think of our brains as a forest, with our unconscious biases representing a path that's very well traveled and well walked, free of any tree or debris which might get in our way. Whereas our conscious path is not very well traveled at all, and is filled with many bushes, roots, and shrubs which get in our way. The reality is, it's so much more intuitive to go with our unconscious biases. After all, it's easier, it's quicker, but above all, it's familiar. For decades, we've been walking along this path of inequality, carrying this ideology that women are worse at chess than men. It's been pre-programmed into our brains based on decades and decades of a lack of female participation in tournaments that women are less capable than men. Which is why people send all of these negative comments and create such a negative environment before their brain has time to think, isn't it great that more women are starting to play chess? So how do we actually go about addressing these unconscious biases and ultimately improve female representation in chess? Well, first, we need to take a step back. We need to take an upstream approach by pausing and considering the consequences of our actions rather than acting, compensating, and backpedaling. A large majority of girls drop out of chess at a very early age, in large part due to these negative comments and negative environments, which act as a trigger incident for them to quit. We need to be able to catch, acknowledge, and challenge our biases before we take action. But that being said, again, it's so much easier said than done. It's so much easier to just act with our unconscious biases. Going back to the forest analogy, the unconscious path is so easy, whereas the conscious path is filled with so many obstacles and is not familiar to us at all. But this is where I challenge you to take that path anyway. Have those difficult conversations which challenge our own biases. Challenge other people's biases. Speak to women who have undergone sexism in chess and learn how well you and your actions can make a difference. But above all, pause. Think before you act. Change doesn't happen overnight, and we can't undo generations and generations of sexism overnight. But what we can do is pave the path towards equity, one decision at a time. Next, we need to teach more young girls chess. Chess is traditionally seen as a masculine sport, which is why many more boys play compared to girls at a young age. We need to challenge this bias. This past March break, I created a girls-only chess program to the Kushi Charitable Society in Rishikesh, India, with a goal of creating a community where women can feel comfortable in their own chess development and growth. But as the lesson was about to begin, boys from the surrounding classrooms, fields, and even from the roof of the school decided they wanted to join in on the lesson too, which made the evening so much more rewarding and successful. It was in this moment that I truly felt a strong sense of community, where both boys and girls were working together to support each other in their learning. Reflecting on this experience, I realized that increasing female participation in chess involves bringing boys to the table as well. It's at this table where both boys and girls can work together to dismantle and tackle their own unconscious biases. To me, this evening really drove home the value in allyship in raising diverse voices to address biases. Ultimately, if we teach more young girls chess and foster the right environment for them to nurture their skills by challenging our own unconscious biases, we can help make women in chess no longer an outlier. Thank you.